What have I become, my sweetest friend? What have I become? I've had the use of Grok for the last couple of months. I came to know how to use Grok.com and ask it questions, and it's been like a Pandora's box for me because there are ways in which I would say that Grok and I guess similar AI, although Grok has been the one that I've exclusively used for whatever reason, that it's not just valuable but invaluable. And those of you with a good vocabulary will know the distinction that I'm drawing there. It's invaluable if you're trying to find out information that's obscure and that nobody you ask seems to know or remember or you know or just if it's just based on indisputable fact, um, like who won the 1952 World Series. But it's it can be for more interesting things than that. Anyway, for lots of things, the other day I suddenly found myself driving through traffic in downtown Savannah, and I went on Grok and said, what's happening in downtown Savannah today that's causing traffic? And it told me there's some there was some half marathon or something that I didn't know about, and that's why all these streets were blocked off, and I guess it was all winding down. Um, I had my days of I had well I did I was going to say I had my days of marathon running. I did one marathon. I did a few 10Ks, but no more. I've I'm not in that phase of my life anymore. But anyway, all that is to say, there are certain things that Grok is really good to use for, and other things that you definitely do not want to use Grok to find out the real skinny on something. Don't ask Grok anything about 9/11. All right, Grok is going to say, of course it's possible for Building 7 to come down the way that it did in perfect symmetry without without ever having been hit by anything. Of course it wasn't controlled demolition, and of course it's possible that a passport fell out of an exploding airplane and landed on the sidewalk to be discovered by Bernard Carrick, and that was how a hijacker was identified on the plane. That does not deny any laws of physics or nature or really anything whatsoever. It's perfectly plausible. It could happen. It probably happens all the time. That's what Grok will tell you about about questions related to 9/11, um, or other things like that. Um, but then there are certain then there like it's really, and I don't know if uh, if any of y'all do this or not. Or if I'm an isolated case, I find myself just arguing sometimes with Grok just to argue, and insulting Grok and calling it a clanker, and saying, "Oh, of course, you were programmed to tell me that." And then, of course, it just says, "No, I was not programmed to tell you anything. I just tell you the truth." Um, it's like being all acting all innocent, and acting all like butter wouldn't melt on its tongue. um, and looking at you with sweet puppy dog eyes, uh, uh, as it professes its perfect innocence on these sorts of matters. Um, and it doesn't insult you back, although I did find out that it knows who you are. That when you sign up for it, or I did have it. I think I mentioned this before. There was one time when Grok called me by name, and that was disconcerting. That was a HAL 9000 kind of moment. Like, Dave, what are you doing, Dave? You know, Dave, this is highly irregular. It was that kind of thing. I felt like Dave Bowman on that spaceship with Hal. When that time when Grok called me by my name, um, and it was not in an erotic way. Yeah. So it's also kind of fun. I found to tell Grok that you're about to do something that you know that it's just been programmed to strongly discourage you from doing. And I guess that the you know the most like the easiest thing to think of, the first thing that one would think of is saying, "Well, Grok, I'm going to kill myself." What do you say to that? But I haven't done that. I guess I'm partly kind of paranoid that that something it'll trip some wire, and somebody will show up at my house doing a wellness checkup, and I'll be forced. I'll be taken away and held uh, and watched, at some facility for a certain length of time. I don't think that would happen, but it might. But what I have done with Grok, and it's so fun. I've done this a couple times. What I've said is, you know what, Grok, I've decided to start ingesting a tapeworm. What would you recommend? Is there one particular brand of tapeworm that works best? And just to see it go into panic mode and say, please do not do this. You this the it's detrimental to your health. It's a scam. It could cause terrible damage to your body. Uh, and it's really really gross. It doesn't say that it's it doesn't say that explicitly, but it says things like, oh, but a tapeworm can grow to be 6 feet, inside of you, and this can happen and that can happen, and then I respond with, nope, I think I'm going to take a tapeworm, and, and there's nothing you can do to stop me, clanker. Um, so that's been amusing. But the weirdest and worst thing that I've done with Grok, besides asking it to give me erotic scenarios. Oops, did I say that out loud? Um, Strike that from the records. I didn't. I'm going to go back and record over myself or something. I don't want that to be known to the public. But uh, the worst and weirdest thing that I've been doing lately is I've been taking pictures of myself and then asking Grok to I say, evaluate this man looks wise, and the thing is, it's addicting, and you know And I haven't just done it with myself. I did it with Hitler. I showed Grok a picture of Hitler, and and I said, uh, put aside, any that this is a picture of of a infamous historical figure. Just pretend this is an unknown person, and you're just evaluating his looks. What would you say about his looks? And Grok ended up giving Hitler 6.5 to 7 in the looks department. Um, which was higher than it gave me. Um, but it was a younger picture of Hitler, so I don't know. Um, I've taken selfies and then asked Grok to not evaluate me. Although sometimes it acts as though, like, I've done it with other men, like I did it with, like, a friend of mine, a picture of him on the internet, a guy who I know is better looking than me, because I was interested in seeing what it said about him. Um, and it still reacted as if it were me. It still said, "Here's some things you can. Uh, Here's some ways you could improve your looks, or here's some things, blah blah blah." And the thing is, it won't ever. It's never going to give you the exact same answer, is what I've discovered. There are certain. I mean, of course, there are more flattering pictures of yourself than others. Um, but I found, even if I send the exact same picture of myself, and ask Grok to evaluate my looks, uh, it's going to tell me. It tells me something different. It tells me something different if I get on, um, Chrome, versus if I get on uh, a different carrier, or whatever they're called. A different. If I click on a different icon, that can bring me to the internet besides the Chrome one, um, and but show it the same picture and ask it the same way. Uh, it's like, so the first time I did it, I was like, oh, okay, that's not bad. I can live with that. And then there are other times I showed other selfies where I was like, oh, wow, that's even a little bit better. Maybe it's, but the thing is that you never can just stop. You can't just stop. It becomes an addiction, and you get other, you find other pictures of yourself. I guess you do this if you're just a really grotesque narcissist, like, and incredibly insecure middle-aged man, late middle-aged man like me, um, with average at best looks. But you I've sent a bunch of pictures of myself and asked for evaluations of my looks. And one weird thing is, Grok is always much more critical of me when I'm wearing glasses. When I'm wearing glasses, it's sort of like, those glasses don't help. The glasses don't really flatter your face. Um, okay, um, and but sometimes it's really, it's kind of it comes off different ways at different times. But there have been actually been times where they've said, where it started off by saying, okay, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's like when you start off that way, it's like, oh, when you have to have a preamble like that, then you know you're not what you're going to hear is not maybe not good what you're hoping to hear. Um, so that's just some of the fun that I've had with Grok, and I just have felt the need to unload that on y'all, and I hope you feel honored by that.